crazy week. College football has come and gone. Another crazy week is ahead of us this weekend. We kicked off last night. Memphis and Navy. Obviously, Memphis pulled out a very tight victory. We're going to talk a little bit about two and a lot about week three. Welcome back to College Football. Happy Friday. Great way to officially kick off your weekend. Talking some college football. Like I said last week, pretty crazy. Obviously, we're going to talk about Alabama, Texas. Alabama all at home. Tuscaloosa as a 7-point favorite by 11, I believe, to the Texas Longhorns. I'm not gonna. We are going to talk about that because they're both obviously teams that we're going to talk about here. We're going to a little bit when I get top 10. So we do that. We'll roll over into talking about. Then we'll start off. We'll kick it right off. My top 10 teams in college football heading into week number 3. Starting off number 10 is Alabama Crimson Tide. We'll pull the Band-Aid off. Get right to it. I was very high on Alabama heading into the season. I was also very high on Texas. Very possible. Obviously, to a team of the nature of Texas. Their team lost. Probably Georgia. You're still in it. Alabama's offense cost them this game. Obviously, they had the trouble in the storm up, especially Jalen. Honestly, you didn't hear as of 2 hours ago, he's benched. Tyler Buckner is going to be the starter in Alabama this week at USF. So obviously, Alabama struggled. They let a lot of big plays on the defensive end too. We saw that big play. Overall, it just seemed like Texas was prepared for this game. It seemed like every time Alabama was ready to make a run to take over this game, come back into this game, they blew it. Was that end up blowing it? It was obviously not a couple of really nice plays in that game, but overall, they're not impressed. Honestly, going back to the bad idea to turn the ball on the bottom, I don't think it's a bad idea. My only concern with Tyler Buckner is what does that do for both their confidence? Because you can't pull Buckner. It's gotta be Buckner the rest of the way unless you're going to commit to Milroe. Unless you're going to recommit to Milroe. But even then, you throw Milroe back in, especially just back in there. His confidence is gone. It is gone. No. One thing about quarterback competition, have these type of guy like Jalen Milroe. You can't put him back in. You're rolling with Tyler Buckner. Obviously, Tyler Buckner's got his offense coordinator from Notre Dame. He was okay at Notre Dame. So obviously more talent, much better system here under Saban in Alabama, and it wasn't Notre Dame. That's not Notre Dame. So it really is just going to come down to. They obviously saw Tyler Buckner. I've made a plan the whole time. Have the short. Obviously, Buckner was transferring in. Got to learn the system. Got to learn style at Alabama and everything. I don't know exactly what they did with the offensive change, whatever. I'm sure it was still same system. So environment, everything you can't just jump in there and it's starting. Jalen Milroe, part of the reason he started there, he was there. He was there right under Bryce Young last year. So it ultimately comes down to what are you going to do about current? What are you going to do now if Tyler Buckner doesn't perform well? And you know what? I'm not saying they're going to lose. I said it on a podcast I did this week. Okada Media. I said USF is going to make this game a lot closer than Bama. The whole Bama's fallen is going to be on full display this week because they got a tough team in USF. I still believe gives them some trouble. It's actually my play on you at USF plus their 2.5. Right. But so if things don't work out with Tyler Buckner, Alabama is screwed. They are screwed. I think they should roll with Buckner from the beginning of the season. Milroe on the job. You want fair and square. But now you put him back in. It's gone. Obviously he didn't play great against Texas. Obviously the defense struggled against Texas. Really lit him up. But I think that lost more about how well Texas played and how well prepared Texas was and how well Quinn Ewers played. Quinn Ewers living up to the hype, living up to what he was coming out of high school. As it was more about that than it was about Bama's struggles. So obviously Bama's got to control their own destiny the rest of the way. They have a very good to do that. But it's still I think going with Buckner now after you commit to Milroe. You got to roll with Buckner. You got to be Tyler Buckner the rest of the way. But yeah, Bama. I'm not concerned about them overall as a team. Long term, I still think they're going to go still be in next contention for that college football playoff. And I still think we're destined for that Alabama Georgia SEC title game. So for now, I have Alabama coming in at number 10. At number 9, I have the Washington Huskies. Washington, I had them at 10 last week. Obviously, and I kind of had a watch game this past week against who was it? I can't remember off the top of my head. Tulsa. But the real reason I'm number 9 is because the quarterback is Michael Penix. He is an absolute animal. He's got to be top 2 or 3 in that Heisman contention. The guy is lighting it up. Washington, that offense is so good. That offense is so high-powered. That defense is playing great. Tough test against Michigan State this weekend. I think we're going to see a very high-scoring game. I think Michigan State surprising me a little bit here early in the season. Obviously, they had a blowout win with one against Central Michigan, and then they beat Richmond. So I really thought Central Michigan was in trouble. They didn't. So Washington's offense is really what's been carrying them up to this point. This offense has been electric. Defense has played well, but they haven't faced a tough test. This is going to be a very telling week on how far I think this Washington team can go. It's going to be very telling this week in East Lansing against Michigan State, which is a team I still think is good. I still think this is a good team. What are they going to be able to do against them defensively? How is Washington's defense going to hold up against Michigan State is going to be a really big question. It's going to really determine to me if this team has potential, how far this potential for this team can go. It's going to be very, very telling this week when they take on Michigan State. I kind of like Michigan State at the plus 16.5. Kind of do. Not going to lie to you. But we'll talk more about that game coming up here in a little bit. But yeah, Washington, the offense, Michael Penix, obviously he's got to be right up there. Right now he's number 2 in my Heisman ladder. I'm going to start doing that next week. I always like to, before I give official Heisman ladders, I always like to let a few weeks settle in. I think next week will be a good week to do that. So yeah, Washington and Michael Penix come in at number 9. Number 8, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Bravo, a phenomenal win for them against NC State in very tough conditions. Estime balled out as we expected, as I've been saying all year. He's an absolute, honestly, he might be more about, no, I wouldn't say Hartman. But that Estime and Hartman duo, I said it before the season, I said that was going to be what carries them. It's going to be those two and that offense, led by those two. And it has done it. It has done it up to this point. These two have lived up to the expectations I set for them. They have played as well as they needed to. They get through NC State. Kind of a trap game for them this week, I won't lie to you. Kind of a trap game for the Irish this week, taking on Central Michigan. And this is a Central Michigan team I always say can compete with anybody. That can always compete with these top schools. I always think Central Michigan can compete with these top schools just because there's a program that's been built kind of on being a group of 5 school that competes. I still think Michigan and Notre Dame's going to get the job done. But you take down NC State on the road, you get through that hurdle, you're eyeing down the number 6 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. You're eyeing them down. A massive game coming up next week. I think Notre Dame gets roughed up a little bit here. I think they take care of business. I think they get through what they need to, but I still think they get a little roughed up here. But for now, they're going to sit at number 8. Honestly, I wish I could move them higher. It's just everybody else above them also took care of business. Starting with USC. I mean, is there really any question on why USC's 7? They're the best player in the country in Caleb Williams. I don't want to hear any shenanigans about Travis Hunter being better than Caleb Williams. He's not. Caleb Williams is the best player in the country. This team has put up at least 56 points in every single game. They have been letting it up. Defense has done well. They got 24 points the last 2 games. Obviously, this week they take on Arizona State. Or sorry, they have a bye this week. Next week they take on Arizona State. Then they go to Colorado. They have some tests in their way. They have some tests coming up in their way. But overall, I think USC's they're in a pretty good spot. I'm pretty confident in anything they're going to be able to do as of now, especially with the way their defense has played. Hasn't done anything that has made me concerned yet. A little bit concerned week 1 against San Jose State. On why San Jose State put up 28 points on you, but nonetheless, it was week 0. For now, USC with Caleb Williams under the helm, until they lose a game, you have to be confident and you have to ride with them just because of how good. I mean, some of those plays Caleb Williams makes is next level. The guy he's not human. He's insane. So
You know, you have a great coach. You're gonna have a coaching advantage almost over any team. And you got a guy, you have the best player in college football, the best quarterback in the country, and the number one candidate for the Heisman as of now, and Caleb Williams. You ooze confidence for this USC team. They come in at number 7. Our number 6 are my Penn State Nittany Lions. Obviously, blowing the doors off of Delaware, I believe it was 65-10. You look at Illinois on the road, Big Ten play. It can be a little tough. It can be a little tough. I think there might be some troubles early against Illinois just because on the road, first road game of the season, first time Drew Allar's playing as a starting quarterback in a hostile environment. So I think maybe some troubles early. And when I say troubles, I mean, your offense maybe not flowing well. You're up 17, you're up 10-0, 17-10, something like that, 14-7. Second half, I expect Penn State to blow the doors off. I think Penn State's going to blow them out in this game. They're going to have to rely a lot more on the run game, I feel like, in this matchup. Really am excited. Obviously, these guys in the backfield have proven but what they are capable of. And I love watching that duo play. Obviously, Nick Singleton, 3 first-half touchdowns last week. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, what's Penn State going to be able to bring to the table this week? It's a very interesting question. Obviously, you look forward to the rest of their games coming up. You're circling the 2 games on their schedule. Obviously, the whiteout next week against Iowa. Obviously, always a tough. Iowa's always a team that gives you some trouble. Top 25 matchup. 2 weeks off, and then you get Ohio's 2 games against Northwestern and UMass, and then you get Ohio State and a bye week. So 3 weeks, 4 weeks still out from playing in the horseshoe against Ohio State. Then you get to host Indiana, and then Maryland, and then Michigan. So really, you got 3 games you're circling, and that's the Iowa game next week, the Ohio State game, and the Michigan game. You got to go. You have to go win 2 of those 3 if you want to be a college football playoff team. If they go 3-0 in those games, they're cruising. Really, Penn State, no real tests. I wouldn't say a test this week, but a team that can give you some trouble. Take care of business this week, then get ready for Iowa in the whiteout. And there's no way Iowa's coming in and winning at the whiteout. Give me Penn State to win that game this week as well, especially with the way Drew Allar's playing, especially with the way their defense is playing. Again, another phenomenal performance. That's something I'm very interested in. Is how is this defense going to do against a Big Ten school? So we'll see. Some of those questions will be answered this week. Let's turn over to another Big Ten team, one I don't like as much, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Obviously, some struggles week 1 offensively for the Buckeyes, but they really put a lot of those to bed in week number 2, winning 35-7. Still, it's Youngstown State and putting up 35 points, getting shut out in the fourth quarter. You're playing backups, only 7 points in the second half. I still have a little, I wouldn't say concerns, but there's some things that stick out to me with them, and it's just like, they take on a Western Kentucky team who I think might be the best group of 5 school in all of college football. Western Kentucky is going to be another thing. I think it's similar to that Central Michigan situation and that USF situation, where I think a lot of these big dogs this week, they're starting to look at their tougher out of conference plays. You're staring down Notre Dame. That's a big time game. You're focused on your Big Ten play. Western Kentucky, I'm not going to say they're going to beat Ohio State, but they're going to give the Buckeyes some trouble. They're going to give the Buckeyes some trouble this week. Don't you worry. They're going to give the Buckeyes some trouble this week. But I think Ohio State's defense is going to really, really hold on for them. I think they're going to win by like 20 or something. I really like that 29.5, that sub 30 number. I think Western Kentucky can keep it within 30. So I do like Western Kentucky this week, spread-wise, but obviously I like Ohio State to win the game. Number 4, the Texas Longhorns. Phenomenal performance by Quinn Ewers last week. Phenomenal. Texas took care of business in Tuscaloosa, especially in that fourth quarter. Quinn Ewers, 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Brooks, 57 yards and a touchdown. Defense showed up. Offense showed up. The defense played great throughout that game, shutting Bama out, especially in that first half. Shutting Bama out. Really, honestly, the defense went through one rough patch in the third quarter where they let up that fluky touchdown on the fumbled snap. But other than that, this defense was rolling. This Texas defense looked insane. That was the question mark I had about Texas heading into the season. How is their defense going to hold up against these big dogs? How is their defense going to hold up against these tough teams? Are they able to accelerate to that college football playoff team level? It's going to rely on the defense showing up, and the defense showed up. The defense showed up. The defense showed that they're able to hang around with a team like Bama, with the team, that has national championship aspirations. And I think this puts Texas in a national championship position. And it's also funny because you hear all the last few years, oh, Texas isn't going to be able to handle the SEC. Oh, they're going to get to the SEC and be the worst team in the conference. Oh, they're not even that good. Texas was never back yet. Well, now you all look like clowns because they just took on the second best program in college football in Alabama, and they in their own stadium, and they beat them by 10. After last year, with a backup quarterback in, losing to Bama by 1. They've shown that they are SEC ready. Steve Sarkisian showed that he is able to sit there and go toe-to-toe with coaches like Nick Saban, like Brian Kelly. He has shown that. He has shown that the last 2 years, and this Texas team has gotten right before they go to the SEC. Very excited for that. This is a college football playoff team. Just got to take care of business in the Big 12, and this team will waltz in to the college football playoff. At number 3, I have the Florida State Seminoles, and I mean, there's not much to say. They took care of business, obviously, against a not as formidable opponent. In So Miss 66-13, but nonetheless, again, Jordan Travis looked phenomenal. Johnny Wilson looked phenomenal. Mike Norvell, another phenomenally coached game. All the credit in the world to Florida State. I'm gonna kind of breeze over it because they really didn't have much. Takes care of business. Florida State stays at number 3. At number 2, I have the Michigan Wolverines. There's not much to say about Michigan football as of now. They play this very weak out of conference schedule where they take on teams like East Carolina and UNLV and now Bowling Green. Michigan basically is just going to cruise to that October 21st game against Michigan State in East Lansing, undefeated. So, but they're taking care of business. JJ McCarthy's playing well. The defense is playing phenomenal as always. Obviously, without Jim Harbaugh, you run into the questions on what was going to happen. Are they on upset alert because they don't have Jim Harbaugh? They've answered the bell on all those. All the credit in the world to Michigan for taking care of business so far. If they're going to have to do it against Ohio State, they're going to have to do it against Penn State. That's really all that's going to matter for them. And number 1, the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, come on. Carson Beck, he's playing fine. Defense is playing fine. They're very similar to Michigan. They play in a weak schedule. Tough test against South Carolina this week. South Carolina might give them a little bit of run for their money. Not really too concerned for Georgia, though. I wouldn't say they're on upset alert. But, Georgia, business as usual for them. They're sitting at 2-0, staring down the barrel of 3-0. And really, they honestly are the one team that I really think is going to waltz their conference championship without problem. Honestly, other than Tennessee. Tennessee's the only team I really think that's going to give them any trouble. So, Georgia, they're sitting at number 1. Now let's talk about this week's matchup. Let's talk about week 3 in college football. I want to waltz over some of my best bets for the week. I released some of them to you. They're going to all be on Twitter this week. My play of the week, though, it is going to be, I'm going to share, if it lets me share my screen. I always have yep, and here we go again. Yep, it is going to give me a million issues, and no. I'm not doing it. It gives me a million issues every time. Kansas State at Missouri. Missouri's going to give them problems this week. Kansas State's going to lose this game. I really do think Kansas State's going to lose this game. I love Missouri's defense. I love what they've got going on there. Missouri, I know they got played tough by Middle Tennessee, but I just have this burning feeling that this is going to be one of those games where we see it. We saw Missouri last year. They played them super tough, I believe, right around this time of the year too. Kansas State, obviously, they took on Troy and they took on Southeastern Montana. Nothing really to flap about, or Kansas State. Missouri plays that in the SEC, so there's obviously, I feel like how good Missouri is continues to get diminished because they play in the SEC. They're not an SEC level team as of now. Missouri's defense is going to show up. Missouri's going to show up and show why SEC football is not Big 12 football. I think the Big 12 is super overhyped. I think that's why Texas and Oklahoma left. They've carried the conference for years. I know TCU went on, that little run. I know TCU and Baylor were good. We're the first year of the college football playoff. But for the most part, this conference it doesn't really amount to much. Doesn't really amount to much. I'm not a big Big 12 fan. I'm not. I was not a big Pac-12 fan either. Neither of those conferences really. I mean, the Pac-12 I'm a little bit more of a fan of this year just because they have phenomenal quarterback play. But I think the Big 12 is weak. I just do. I think, or Texas and Oklahoma would have stayed around. It's a weak conference, in my opinion. Missouri takes care of business, does what they need to this week to pull off an upset that I think is going to shock a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people are, looking at this as, a potential upset, but I got Missouri pulling it off. Another game I'm going to talk about, we will go, I said USF, watch out. This USF team is going to hang around with Bama for about 3.5 quarters, and Bama's going to pull out late and win by like 17. I'm saying 34-17 Bama wins. But that covers that 32.5. That is another one of my favorite plays this week. So my two favorite plays as of now, Missouri plus 4.5, USF plus 32.5. I love those two plays so far. We see this all the time in these trap games. Florida State, Boston College. I like the under in this game just because Boston College's offense is awful. It is terrible, no good, very bad. It's just not gross offense. Florida State is gonna take care of them pretty easily. I think Florida State's defense basically shuts them out. I was saying outside my buddy about it. I'm thinking like 34-10, something like that. That's under that 46.5. I would play it to about 45.5. I got it. I believe it was at like 48 at one point. I missed it because I wanted to look into it more, and I regret it because I should have jumped all over that while that was there. This is a game obviously we got to talk about. We're heading to the Swamp, Florida, taking on hosting Tennessee. I know a lot of people are saying, it's in the Swamp. Tennessee hasn't won there since 2003 when I was a year and a half old. This is not the same Florida team. This is not the same Tennessee team. Tennessee is going to stomp a hole in Florida's chest. They have the coaching advantage. They have the quarterback advantage. They have every advantage you can think of. Not very big. I'm not very fond of Graham Mertz. I like Joe Millen. I like what Tennessee's brewing over there. To me, they're sitting right outside that top 10. They're still in this, race early on in this point in the season. They're gonna muck up Florida. I'm over Florida after what I saw them they put on offensively against Utah, which ended up getting damn near losing to a Baylor team that lost to Texas State. And I know, this isn't like, King of the Hill shoots and ladders, whatever, but you got to take those things into account. This is not a very good Florida team. This is not. They're kind of rebuilding. They're kind of retooling. I don't think Graham Mertz is Anthony Richardson. He's not at all. If it was Anthony Richardson playing quarterback, you might get me. You might get me to bite. Not here. I'm taking Tennessee to roll over them. I love Tennessee minus 6.5. There's a lot of plays I love this week on a down week of college football. On a week that's kind of down in college football. Last game I want to talk about for the week, Colorado hosted Colorado State. The Colorado State Jay Norvell coach is a moron. Clearly, this Colorado team is motivated by their haters, and I'm not a person that's necessarily high on Colorado, but to say things like Jay Norvell said on, when I talk to adults, I answer questions from adult. I don't wear hats and glasses. Who cares? It's just stupid to say. It's that stupid stuff. And now you got them running around and, Deion showing up on First Take In and Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith sunglasses that say take them off or whatever. Colorado, I don't know. He's handing everybody sunglasses and they're, they marking all this down. Why are you giving your opponent more bulletin board material on a program that is fueled off of bulletin board material? They want it. That's the thing about Deion, and that's what makes him so great as a coach, is he has continued to make his guys want it. It is not a talent. It is a talent thing because they are loaded with talent. They beat TCU because they wanted it more. They're probably as talented as TCU, but they wanted it more. And when you run into these Oregons and you run into USC, when I feel like the talent gap's much bigger and your defense isn't going to be able to hold, that's where I see Colorado struggling. But you lack talent. You need to go out there. You should have been telling your guys, hey, these guys are like this huge team in college football right now. Everybody loves them. But instead, you're going out there and criticizing Deion frickin' Sanders. What is wrong with Jay Norvell? It is a clown mentality. Their defense is going to get rolled over by that Colorado offense. Colorado's going to put up a 50 burger on them. I have Colorado over 41.5 points. That is my play for that game. I'm not touching a 25-point spread in a game I don't really care about. But I know Colorado's offense is going to blow up. They're going to light it up against Colorado State. Colorado takes care of business. I have them over 41.5. And that's going to conclude it for week 3 of College Football Fridays. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. As always, make sure you follow me, Sideline Sports, and the entire team on all of our social medias. And I'll be back 2 or 2:30, depending on the week, depending on how my class goes next week. As always, thank you guys for tuning in once again, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.